What's up, folks? So here we are, episode 20, and it's a action-packed weekend because not only do we have coming up here very shortly with us, TJ Jones, the host of State of the Saints podcast. He will be on very shortly with us talking about the Saints and, of course, the breakdown of the Saints game. And we all know, because we missed him, is Malcolm Jenkins who's over there, so I'm pretty sure TJ will give us the rundown of how Malcolm has been performing this year, which the number shows he's doing well and keeping up with his game. And also, of course, I'll have my co-host on, Mike Fuji, sports contributor Mike Sherman. That's all coming up. And we will be breaking down the game coming up this week, which should be interesting since there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the Eagles. So we got your comments. We appreciate when you guys come on as far as making the comments. So please continue to bring the comments. I'll read them as they come across, or now at least I'll put them across the screen itself so everyone can follow. But with that, we'll get the show started. This is Broad Street South Sports Talk. I'm Angel, and here we go. So, of course, my co-host who loves to get fired up, and this week he may just well get fired up because it may end up turning out to be the Mike, and TJ show because both of them will be teasing probably a lot of each other. But without further ado, of course, here is my co-host, Mike Fuji. Mikey, how you doing?
Week 14 on this special Saturday of interviews. Looking forward to breaking down the Eagles Saints for tomorrow. The Jalen Hurts has begun in Philadelphia. So Carson turning over the reins to Jalen Hurts, and we'll see what Jalen brings out tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get a fired up team and a team that's ready to go. You got Malcolm Jenkins coming to town, ready to probably show some revenge on his former teammates, and we're ready to rock.
Well, speaking about getting fired up, if you guys really want to get fired up, well, there's a place where you can actually go where the fiery grill is always warm. Tampa Joe's the official sponsor of Broad Street Style Sports Talk, and the food there is phenomenal. They have a brand new chef, brand new kitchen. I have been down there this past weekend. As a matter of fact, I was there today for the car show, and man, I got to tell you that the food is fantastic. And with that, of course, bringing the fire, of course, is the sports contributor himself, the guru, Mike Sherman. Mike, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. I hope that you guys are doing well. I need to put this out there right away. Last week, I came on the show and I said not only were the Philadelphia Eagles going to beat the Green Bay Packers, I said that this week they're going to beat the New Orleans Saints. And I cannot go back on that. It doesn't matter that Jalen Hurts is starting. It doesn't matter that Carson Wentz is being benched. I got to be true to myself. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to find a way to win this game this weekend against the New Orleans Saints.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I beg to differ because to me, if they may come out and hopefully Jalen Hurts will show up and bring some enthusiasm back to this city, but to me, I just can't see how the Eagles are going to win another game. But I know I'll probably take a lot of heat from the Eagle faithful, but I just can't see how they're going to win this game this week.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. The Eagles have not been able to crack 17 points in the last 4 weeks, and the Saints all season, the lowest amount of points that they've scored all season is 21. So if you look at the numbers, it definitely is in the Saints' favor. But I'm going to tell you, the Saints might be looking ahead to the Kansas City Chiefs next week in a potential Super Bowl preview. And if they're not paying attention to what's going on in the field tomorrow, the Philadelphia Eagles find a way to win that game tomorrow.
Well, Mike, I totally agree with you because I mean, it could be a trap game tomorrow, and, the Eagles could shock the world and knock off New Orleans being the number one defense in the football right now. But I take my hat off to Jalen Hurts because, with all his confidence, the way they're talking on, Comcast Sportsnet and everything else, he's very confident. He's being thrown right in the fire against the best defense in football. So, and if he shines, hey, the sky's the limit with him. I mean, he could have a new era here, and Carson Wentz, I don't think they should get rid of him, but he could be on his way out with all the rumors floating around. But to me, I'd give Carson another year. I mean, to me, anybody that should go first should be Howie Roseman, just because on the history of drafting and The Eagles are $65 to $80 million over the cap. And to me, I think you got to turn this roster over and get rid of whoever's left over from the Super Bowl, whether it's Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz, say goodbye to Alshon Jeffrey, say goodbye to Deshaun Jackson, get Jason Peters out of here. Thanks for the memories, Hall of Famer, no question. But it's time to turn over and bring in some new young blood in here. And for me, I would just play for the top pick.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
We got a lot to talk about here. And of course, to bring the fire out of probably both of you guys, the host of State of the Saints podcast, TJay Jones. He is with us today. So let's welcome in TJay. TJay, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
No problem.
How are you, TJay?
I'm doing okay, man. Ready to talk about this Week 14 matchup, man. No doubt about it.
This should be this is going to be interesting this week because I for most of us, we usually every week as we go through a TJay is that we try to bring the good and bad points, of course, when it comes to the Eagles. Lately has been more bad than obviously good. There's a couple of clips I'm going to show later on as far as how good the defense is, and might have a little pun, not towards the Saints, but towards the Eagles, because the Saints look just incredible. And to me, and I guess kind of like one of the first things I want to share with you is we've seen the Saints now, the past 4 seasons at least, go into their playoffs. It seems like the Saints should have more than just the one current Super Bowl that they have. Are they at least in the running this year to possibly go back to the NFC Championship game and not get cheated as they've been, the last 2?
Well, I think that they're poised to make a playoff run. I'm one of those people. I look at the Saints very carefully, but I'm optimistic, but I'm careful with my assessment. I look at these guys as being a playoff contender, of course, but I mean, you just never know. I mean, the Saints team in the regular season looked like world beaters for the last couple of years. They finished the season 13-3. As of right now, they're 10-2, and they look like they're probably the best they've been in a very, very long time. But then when they get to the playoffs, it seems like they forget how to play football. So if I can just put my finger on it, I would say that yes, they would learn from the mistakes that they made. And I heard you guys talking in your opening dialogue when you're talking about the Saints slipping up or looking past the Eagles to play the Chiefs. This is something that the Saints have been doing this past season that I'm very impressed by. They are not looking past any opponent at all. None of them. Like any team that looks like the Saints should just dominate, they do not pay attention to what the press clippings are saying. You have to say that Sean Payton has done an outstanding job getting these guys motivated. As a matter of fact, he put a little message inside of each one of those players' locker room this past week. He gave each player a basket of cheese. And the whole point of it was an old Bill Parcells saying this: don't eat the cheese. So even though Jalen Hurts is coming into the game, this is his first start. He came in as relief. Carson Wentz dealing with that against the Green Bay Packers. I don't see the Saints looking past the Philadelphia Eagles at all. The Saints understand that they have no room to slip up right now. They cannot fall back. I mean, right now, they're ahead of the NFC South, but they're still right now focusing on that number 1 seed. And if they slip up, the Green Bay Packers can jump right in front of them and take it from them, and they'll mess around and be playing on Wild Card Weekend.
That's absolutely right. And it's interesting that we just had Wayne Henderson on with Green Bay not too long ago, and it's interesting to see that the Saints have lined themselves up again. They're in the perfect spot right now to actually take the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And you're right as far as saying they can't overlook the Eagles, even though it seems like it should be a gimme win, but no one knows. But with Jalen Hurts now being in, this could change things. So it's going to be from here on out for the Saints. The same way with the Packers. I mean, there's nothing to say the Packers can win out as well. I mean, they have kind of easier games in their lineup coming up, but I only chose them winning 3 out of the 4, maybe the next one. So it will be a tight race, at least I will see. And I'm just hoping if we're going to get back down to the NFC Championship game, and as bad as I feel for the Saints fans, that they don't get cheated again with 2 blown calls that were just, man, I don't know. But we've seen some losses around here, but I couldn't even imagine with a blown call that it was more than obvious that it just wasn't called.
Yeah. I mean, but at the end of the day, look, the Saints have to handle their business. I mean, they've been dominating this whole entire season, and you have to look at it as a fan. and say to yourself, like, okay, yeah, the Saints were cheating in some of those games, but look at some of the plays that led to that point. I mean, sometimes, like, when you know that the referees don't have your best interest at heart, I mean, you got to take that victory. You got to dominate to a point where it's undeniable. I mean, you look at the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs last season. I mean, they dominated, right? They dominated the Vikings and they dominated the Green Bay Packers on their way to the Super Bowl. You have to make yourself look undeniable. Take it out of the hands of the referees. And I think that the Saints have been doing a good job this season in a regular season, by, dominating and imposing their wills on teams and doing an outstanding job by doing that. But when you get to the playoffs, you get the best football from your opponent. So you have to go ahead and play your best football to be able to counteract what your opponent is doing. So if the Saints go out there and they handle their business and they play the way that they played, like some of the games similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, similar to the Atlanta Falcons game the first time around, then we shouldn't have any issues. They shouldn't have to worry about the referees. We shouldn't be on any sports talk shows or have to sign any petitions talking about how the Saints were screwed. Take it out of the referee's hand and handle your business.
That is so true. I'm going to read a couple comments here before both mics get into it. Michael Alexander says, "Who dat?" Of course, from the Who Dat Nation, from the Saints themselves. Ms. Jackson says, "Is Jalen Hurts going to give him the best chance to win?" Anybody? Mike?
I was going to ask TJ, is Michael Thomas completely healthy at this point of the season?
Well, look, the thing about those ankle sprains, I mean, they come and they go. Sometimes you feel like you can be 100%, then you get out there, and the next thing you know, you come down awkwardly, and next thing you know, you remember that you have an ankle sprain. I would say the last game that he played, it really showed flashes that he was back. I mean, I think that he was out there. He came back a little bit early to try to, work as almost like a decoy to get some of these other guys involved. And you have to give kudos to him. I mean, a guy who had 149 receptions last season and kind of just been taking a back seat to some of these other receivers, getting them involved. I mean, it just shows the type of player that he is. But I think the last game that they played against the Falcons, it really showed him, show flashes that we have seen the Michael Thomas of old. I mean, some of the route running that he was doing, the explosiveness off the line, and I mean, just some of the catches that he was making. So I think he has a little bit more confidence in his body, and I think we're going to see him progress from week to week. So no disrespect to Darius Slay, but it might be a tough outing for him if you're going against Michael Thomas this week.
Well, this is probably the third top matchup for Darius Slay in a row, going up against DK Metcalf, and then last week going up against Devontae Adams. And he's nicked up right now with a bad knee. So Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, whoever Slay's on, I mean, could have a field day. I mean, it's just a fast track with that New Orleans Saints offense.
Yeah.
I mean, without Drew Brees, even though Taysom Hill's looking pretty good, plus Alvin Kamara and coming out of the backfield. I mean, I just think the Saints offense is unstoppable right now.
Yeah. Well, I do think there's some room to improve. I'm not going to say that they're unstoppable. I just think that some of the matchups that they were up against, especially since Taysom Hill has been a quarterback, I think it favors the Saints. I mean, you look at the Falcons the first time around. I mean, Taysom Hill was their quarterback. Everybody thought Jameis Winston was going to start in that game. They said in the middle of the week that Taysom was coming out, so the Falcons really didn't know how to scheme for Taysom. They didn't know what he was going to bring. And then the following week, you go up to Denver and they don't even have a quarterback. So, and then you follow that up the next week, which, you still didn't have that much tape on Taysom except for the game that you actually played against him. I mean, the Saints in that Denver game, they ran the ball a lot, 43 times in that game. So I would have to say, looking at, the Saints offensively, I mean, there's still room to improve. There was some passes that Taysom could have had back. And not to mention Taysom has been dealing with a little bit of fumbleitis. A couple of times he fumbled the football, could have easily cost him the game, especially in 4 minutes of last week when he fumbled the football. A.J. Terrell, the cornerback for the Falcons, forced a fumble and it went out of bounds. So Taysom still has to work on ball security, and there's still room and opportunity for the Eagles to be in this game. So, look, I don't believe in easy games. I feel like Rodney Harrison, how he says on NBC Sports, there's no such thing as an easy game. I mean, any team can beat any other team any given Sunday. I mean, if you mess around and just lollygag against the Jets and they can beat you. I mean, look at Las Vegas. They almost beat the Raiders. So I don't look past the team, not at all.
So aside from the 2 Tampa Bay wins that New Orleans has this year, it doesn't look like they've beaten anybody who is in the running for the playoffs. Can you talk to us about the feel of New Orleans right now? You told us earlier that they've been a dominant team. I look at earlier in the season when they had 2 overtime games against the Chargers and the Bears that they found a way to win. And that's what winning teams do. And they beat the Lions by 6, and they beat the Panthers by 3.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us about the feel of New Orleans in terms of whether they feel that New Orleans is really the elite team of the NFL, or maybe their 10-2 record is because of the fact that they're playing teams that are mediocre? What is the feel of the New Orleans people right now?
Well, this is the thing right here. You know, I mean, as long as the Saints are winning, Saints fans are going to be happy. They don't care like how they get the win as long as they win. And as far as early in the season is concerned, I mean, the Saints always start off slow. If you notice, at the beginning of the season, the Saints always probably drop their first game, win the second game, lose the third game, and then they go on these streaks. It just seems like, it takes them some time in order for them to develop and get on the same page. You have a lot of guys that were nicked up. I mean, you look at that Detroit Lions game that you mentioned. Marshawn Lattimore didn't play in that game. Janoris Jenkins didn't play in that game. The Saints went out there with 2 backup cornerbacks to play in that game. You look at some of these other games. Michael Thomas was not involved in the game. Emmanuel Sanders, he was out for 2 games dealing with COVID-19. So they had some injuries, and I think it kind of caused the team a little bit of some setbacks. And like I said, they start off really, really slow. But as the season goes on, these guys are starting to click. They're starting to gel. You have some new pieces that were part of the defense. They're starting to gel together. You get Quan Alexander, who has been a godsend to the defense, because now it helps Demario Davis, the linebacker, be free and be able to play much faster. So ever since Quan Alexander has been with the New Orleans Saints over the past few weeks, you can make an argument to say Demario Davis should be in a running for Defensive Player of the Year. So it takes some time for teams to develop. You have to worry about guys, getting hurt and coming back. But this is a real good team right now. I mean, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, that was an impressive win. I mean, I think the week before that, I think Tampa scored about 40-some-odd points. Even a game against, the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons went up against Las Vegas and dropped 44 on them. And the Saints, came back the following week. They only had, 16? So you have to be impressed by the way that, what you're seeing from the New Orleans Saints. And I just think right now, the way that they're playing, the way that they're being coached, and the desire that each one of those guys have, which is a recipe for greatness and a great team, you're playing for one another, this team is going to be hard to beat, even if Drew Brees is the quarterback or not.
TJ, touch on Malcolm Jenkins. What kind of presence has he brought to the Saints defense, knowing that he was with New Orleans before as opposed to now?
Well, I have to say kudos to you all. Malcolm Jenkins was not the Malcolm Jenkins we seen out there in Philadelphia and New Orleans the first time around. You seen a guy that had a lot of confidence, but was very unsure, wasn't a very good tackler. And, he had like all the tools to be a leader, but he wasn't quite there yet. I think the few years that he spent out there in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, 6 years, I think it turned him into a leader and it made him sure about who he was. Now, at the beginning of the season, it started off a little rough for Malcolm Jenkins. I think one game in particular against the Raiders, Darren Waller just ripped him to shreds, and I was thinking as a fan, I was like, wow, maybe we made a mistake trying to get this guy back, and maybe Philly seen something that the Saints didn't. But as time went on, he started to buckle down. The defense started to be a little bit more easier, simplistic. And, he's been flying around the football, and he's been doing a really, really good job. And I do think that now Malcolm Jenkins is playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He said in a press conference earlier this week that he just felt like the Philadelphia Eagles kind of disrespected him as far as with the contract. He said that he felt like they didn't value him the way that he felt like he needed to be valued. Thus, he came back to the New Orleans Saints organization. So, I just think that Malcolm Jenkins is a leader. You all know that. He's a leader. He's a guy who is he's a voice on the field. He's a voice off the field. And guys really like playing alongside him. And I'm glad to see that over the last couple of weeks, He's been playing some really lights out football.
Well, our general manager, Howie Roseman, who took a lot of heat for signing Malcolm Jenkins over Jarius Byrd at the time.
No.
I mean, as an organization, I believe they did disrespect Malcolm the way they disrespected Brian Dawkins back in 2009, which, Malcolm being a key leader and, one of the, big leaders, for the Super Bowl team. And, it's just like they did B-Dawk, they did Malcolm Jenkins dirty, I think. People say he lost a step, but, without this, the secondaries, I think they're in trouble without Malcolm Jenkins this year. That voice in the locker room, whether you got Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay coming from Detroit, you still miss that locker room presence with these young guys. Even though Rodney McLeod has stepped up to be a leader, I still say they definitely miss Malcolm Jenkins, even though going into Green Bay last week they were 9th ranked in defense in the NFL, but still.
Yeah.
I think Malcolm's hungry, and he wants, especially tomorrow, coming back to Philly. I'm sure he's going to be fired up and ready to rock.
Yeah.
To get back to it, I'm going to piggyback off both of you guys, Mike and TJ here, and I'm going to get back to the comments because there was a lot of questions for TJ itself, for him. So, TJ, what you said earlier about Malcolm Jenkins, he said it here in the clip, so I got them both queued up here. We're going to listen to both clips of what he had to say about Philly missing it and, of course, the contract.
I mean, I wish fans were allowed. We've been locked away here for a long time. It's been a minute since I've seen my family, so to be that close to home, not be able to, touch and feel your family is a little tough. But, I'm excited, man. Obviously, it accomplished a lot in that building. I got a lot of friends that'll be on the other side, but really looking forward to the opportunity to compete.
And the second one here, to follow up to that question when he was asked as far as the contract.
Gave everything I had to that city, to the team, did everything that the coaches asked me to do, did everything to make the players around me better, try to put my best, football out there. And it just wasn't valued, that much by, those who make the decision. So for me, it was just more of a principle about respect. I really didn't care what the money was, but I wanted to see what that respect factor was. And it wasn't valued at what I thought. And so, decisions are made and I end up at a place that values what I bring, that, has really had history with me and obviously has worked out.
It was interesting to hear right on both there. One, that he misses the city, and obviously he did do a lot, and he continued to do so because he still has a residence here in Philadelphia. So I'd like to come back, still be involved with the police, with the community, and I guess before I get to the money thing, which kind of surprised me when he said there, but I'm going to ask you, TJ, you would have seen him prior to us here in Philly. How much did he get involved with the community prior to moving here to Philadelphia? Was it just about equal, the same, where he always want to be involved and at least bring the community together?
Well, I think if you're talking about at the beginning of his career, when he first was drafted, I think that Malcolm Jenkins, he was pretty much just trying to find himself. I think that he became more of a leader out there in Philadelphia, where you start to see him being a part of the Players Association, when you start to see him doing, work in the community. So I'm not saying that he didn't do those things out in the New Orleans area, but I mean, he took it to a different level. I mean, the Malcolm Jenkins that you all had out there in Philadelphia and the Malcolm Jenkins that we had when he first came out of Ohio State is like night and day. It was like we got the boy version of Malcolm Jenkins. You all got the man version of him, and now, things are coming full circle, him coming back to the New Orleans Saints organization. And honestly, like I said, I just think that he's a better player because he went through the Philadelphia Eagles organization. I think you all kind of helped him mold him to being the player that he is right now. And I think that is paying dividends, especially for some of those young players on the Saints team in that secondary. I mean, you got to have that veteran leadership, that guy that can wrap his arms around some of those players, and not to mention the cachet. I mean, he has 2 Super Bowl championships. He has one with the Saints and one with the Eagles. So that automatically, comes in. I mean, people are going to listen. I mean, you got 2 rings and you're a young player trying to get your first. Of course, you're going to listen to him. And I think that you look at how Marcus Williams, the safety for the Saints, I mean, he looked like he's playing a little bit more lights out. You're seeing a little bit more physicality with him. So I just have to say, man, Philadelphia probably made him who he is today. You know, I just think that Philadelphia should be proud, you know, of the player that Malcolm Jenkins has become, because he wasn't there the first time around. He was okay, but he took it to the next level out there in Philly.
Well, just to piggyback off what Angel said, Malcolm Jenkins did a lot with the police and a lot for the Philadelphia community. I believe he actually opened up his own business here as well, just helping, like I said, in the community and stuff. But
right.
A very vocal leader and a very, leader on the field, off and on the field as well.
Yeah.
And we, as an Eagles fan, we do miss that presence.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta have it. You gotta have that. You gotta have that veteran leadership. I mean, you ask anybody. Like, think about the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, there's only one Ray Lewis. There's only one Ed Reed. I mean, I don't care if Terrell Suggs is the next guy up. I mean, he had an incredible career. I think we all can admit he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I guarantee he's not the leader that Ray Lewis was. I mean, you got to have that voice inside the locker room. I mean, Brian Dawkins in the middle of those circles. Weapon X, when he gets out there on the field, he's screaming, he's hollering. I mean, he's all in guys' faces and stuff like that. Like you need that type of guy inside of the locker room to lead by example, not only on the field, but off the field as well. And you just can't replace that type of production, and that type of voice that you have in the locker room with just anybody. Just because a guy is a good player on one team, you might sign him. That doesn't mean he's going to be a good leader for that team coming up. So it takes a special guy that rallies all the troops together, and guys are willing to run through a brick wall for that guy. It's hard to do.
No, exactly. No question about it.
That's true. And I'm going to ask a question here because we're still going to get back to the money contract portion of it. And I see Chemo Slice, J Mac, Mike Alexander. So I'm going to ask you too, TJ, along with the other three that I just mentioned. Which one do you feel, as for Malcolm, that was the most important Super Bowl win? The first one he got with New Orleans, or because he became the man in Philly and knew that Philly was hungry for it for the longest of time?
Well, I just think that maybe the Philadelphia championship, and I'll tell you why, and I know probably members of the Who Dat Nation that's in the chat going to be mad, but I'll tell you why. When he won a championship in New Orleans, he was a rookie, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just came into the league, and all of a sudden, like, you're a Super Bowl champion, and you're like, man. I had Jari Evans, the offensive lineman, on my show one time. He talked about his rookie season. The Saints went to the NFC Championship game and they played the Chicago Bears. They lost, and he was talking about, man, he said, when we went, he said, my rookie year, I thought we was going to go back every year. He said, but then we had like back-to-back 8-8 seasons. He said, and then we ended up winning the Super Bowl. He said it made me value and appreciate it a little bit more. I think when Malcolm Jenkins came to the Saints as a rookie, you win the Super Bowl in your rookie season. I mean, you really don't know what to expect. You probably just think that y'all gonna win it again next year, or you probably gonna get about 3 or 4 of these things. But I just think that the one in Philadelphia, because like I said earlier, we got the boy version of Malcolm Jenkins. You all have the man version of him. When he went to Philadelphia, I feel like he felt like that was his team. Okay. I mean, when he was in New Orleans, I mean, they had so many other leaders. He would just kind of finding his place. But he was the guy. He was smack dab in the middle and a contributor to the success of that team, rallying the troops, getting guys involved, helping them to develop, to live out their best potential. So I would have to say that Philadelphia Eagles championship, we would have to ask him. But if I was a betting man, I would say the Philadelphia championship, because he was one of the voices, if not one of the loudest voices in that locker room. And you have to believe that it means a lot to him winning that championship in Philly. I mean, both teams, if you think about it, both teams never really won a championship. The Saints won their first championship. Philly, winning their first championship in the NFL era. So, I would have to say Philadelphia's championship probably meant more.
Okay. The other, of course, now getting back to the question as far as when it came to their money, I was kind of surprised when I heard that, because for the longest we kept hearing that, the Eagles weren't paying him enough. Malcolm at one point said that, that he felt like his welcome was out-welcomed. And so no one got the true story. And now it seems like finally we learned the reason why he decided, maybe it is time for me to leave out of Philly and go back to the Saints. Now, Do I prefer him to go back to the Saints versus any other team? Yeah, I will, because that's where he started from. But at the same time, too, I do feel bad because I knew Malcolm wanted to, at least do another 2 to 3 years here in Philly. And I know he wanted to get more money as far as his contract. Right now, the salary cap with the Eagles is completely crazy. So who knows, even if he would have been able to get that money, or would he have to restructure his contract? But I do like that he finally hit the point that it wasn't about the money. It's just the way he felt and what he could do for Philly, and what I guess Jeffrey Lurie and the organization decided, well, maybe you can't do that for us. He ended up going back, but it's still good to see that he is still playing at just about the same level where he was here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And players just want to feel like they're appreciated. Like these guys give it their all, on the field. I know sometimes, like, as fans, they might have bad games and we like, get rid of that bum. But these guys are really doing their best and putting their best foot forward. And I just think that, when you have a guy like that, like we talked about some of his attributes. When you have a guy like that, that guy is hard to find. It's hard to find a guy that's a leader like that people are just going to respect. So I do feel like if they probably would have came to the table a little bit better, I think we probably would have never seen Malcolm Jenkins in the Saints uniform. But hey, I think that him coming to New Orleans Saints was very beneficial. And even Sean Payton said it. Sean Payton said it after a Philadelphia Eagles game, when the Saints played Philly, and he had a pretty bad game against the Saints. I think when the Saints kind of beat up on Philly, I can't remember the score, but he was like, the worst decision I ever made in my life as a coach, he said, was allowing Malcolm Jenkins to leave out the door. I think that's probably like the biggest honor a player can ever hear from a coach. I mean, he said that was the biggest mistake of his career. So Malcolm Jenkins means a lot to Sean Payton, and I think he means a lot to the city of New Orleans. I mean, I even asked the question. I say, who do you consider Malcolm Jenkins? You consider him more of a Philadelphia Eagle or New Orleans Saints? And most Saints fans will tell you they consider him more of a Saint than an Eagle.
Oh, I could say it because I recall Sean Payton said he was sorry that he let Malcolm Jenkins walk away. And now you guys got him back in New Orleans. And I mean, I'm sorry he left. It aggravated me. Like, probably the most vocal leader since Brian Dawkins, that brought that impact.
Yeah.
That we still
updated us. He said it was 48-7 Saints.
Okay. I don't remember the score. I know it wasn't close.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
But before we get into like the other with Alvin Kamara, the year he's had, DeMario, who's coming up for, at least right now he's in the running for Man of the Year. But I know for the Saints organization, they picked him for Man of the Year, and I do have a clip of him talking about that. It's, to me, I think, and I'm going to get back to some of these questions here. You have, for example, which I don't know what the Saints are going to do at this point, but you have, of course, Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, which is, I guess, your what's supposed to be your next starting quarterback and your backup quarterback. Taysom has been around, like you said, lately. As of late, he hasn't done so well. But if it came down to, let's just say Drew Brees decided to hang it up after this year, even fast more forward, let's say that, you know what, the Saints walk away with the Super Bowl this year, they beat the odds, and Drew Brees calls it quits. Who do you believe has the better advantage to be the next starting quarterback for the Saints? Or is it none of those guys, and they'll be looking somewhere in the future for either a veteran or someone coming out of the draft?
Well, this is the way I feel about it. I feel like no quarterback that the Saints have, with the exception of Drew Brees, can lead the Saints to a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. I do feel like if I was a betting man, I believe both guys are coming back. I think that both guys are going to come back next year, and I'll tell you why. I look at the same situation that happened with Teddy Bridgewater, right? Teddy Bridgewater had an opportunity in his second year to leave the Saints and possibly sign a contract with the Miami Dolphins. Okay, this was his hometown team. I mean, I think he grew up maybe 30 minutes from that stadium. He had the opportunity to go home and be the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins under Brian Flores. He decides to come back to the New Orleans Saints, become the highest paid backup quarterback, and he didn't expect to play. I think that, Sean Payton probably told him, look, Drew is probably about to retire after this year, and we want you to be the next guy up. What happened was the plan backfired, because Drew Brees got hurt. Teddy came in, he played 5 games, went 5-0, and the rest is history, him going to Carolina. I feel like Taysom Hill signing that contract Sean Payton probably told him, look, we're going to give you an opportunity to be a starter for the New Orleans Saints. And he also has in his back pocket, in case Taysom doesn't work out, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, even though the season is going to be over, I feel like there's not going to be a huge free agent market trying to get Jameis Winston. And why is that? Because the last time we've seen Jameis Winston starting the game or starting the season, he was throwing 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. So it's still in the back of GMs and ownership's mind that maybe we'll be taking a gamble on Jameis Winston so the Saints could possibly sign him back. So even if you go into the season, if I'm thinking about it, it's probably going to be Taysom Hill. You still have a backup in case Taysom doesn't work out. Jameis comes in and, maybe, what I'm saying, you have your next starting quarterback with Jameis. But if I'm a betting man, I would say that Taysom would be the starting quarterback going into the 2021 season. And I would think that the Saints are going to bring back Jameis Winston due to the fact that I don't feel like any other team is going to go out there and gamble on a guy. And the last time you saw him, he was, turning the ball over at an alarming rate. So,
and no matter who they choose, it's a great situation to have when you can run the ball as effective as the New Orleans Saints run the ball. So going into 2021, whether they win the Super Bowl this year or they don't win the Super Bowl this year, right? Going into next season, whether it's Hill or Winston at the helm for the quarterback, they can rely on handing the ball off just because of the fact that they're so effective at running the ball and take the time to groom whoever they eventually have as a starting quarterback.
Yeah. And you got to give credit to them. You got to give credit to the New Orleans Saints coaching staff and scouting staff too, because, they always say the best friend of a young quarterback is a good running game and a good defense. If you look at the New Orleans Saints right now, what do they have? They have a good running game and a good defense. So it doesn't matter what quarterback actually comes into the game. They can go out there and they can run the football. They can be effective doing that, and they can shut the other opposing offenses down. So I think that this is a really good look by them going out here, getting young guys, on the offensive line, getting a guy like Ryan Ramczyk out of Wisconsin, getting a guy like Cedro East out of Michigan. Guys that play out in the cold in Big Ten football where they like to run the football. And, re-signing somebody like Andrews Pete, who ran more of a pro-style offense where they were run dominant at Stanford. So you knew for a fact that Drew Brees was going to eventually retire, and you're going to have to get a young quarterback. And in order for him to develop, you got to lean on that running game in order for him to grow. And, you don't have to put so much pressure on him to exceed expectations right away. You can kind of gradually watch him grow, gradually watch him develop, and lean on that running game until he gets where you want him to be.
That's true. But TJ, I want you to hang on for a minute. Of course, you can join in the conversation, but I see standing by is Mark. And Mark is coming from, and he's been on the show before, and we appreciate him coming back because we also want to get a Bears update, what's going on out there in Chicago. So let me cue up Mark here. Mark, I'm going to switch places here for a second. So Mark from 670thescore.com, ESPN radio, AM station, if I remember correctly, Mark?
Correct.
All right. So you can listen to Mark every morning on 670 The Score. And Mark, well, with TJ being on here as well, because we're talking Saints talk and Bears talk today, my thing is that what in the world is going on with the Bears organization? I mean, they started out so well and now have gone on a crazy skid backwards.
Well, they were kind of a false 5-1. I mean, I think that anybody who was watching the Bears games, paying attention to them, reading about them, you knew that they weren't truly a 5-1 season. Now, I didn't think that they were necessarily what they are now, a 5-7 team and a team capable of losing 6 straight games, and who knows where the losing streak stops. But, there was no happy medium for the Bears this year. Everything is off the tracks now. We know about the persistent problems with the Bears offense, with the Bears quarterbacks, and now all of a sudden in the Bears' last 2 games, both divisional opponents, one Detroit and one Green Bay, the defense has been nowhere to be found and has looked bad. So it's a big mess right now. And normally when franchises, NFL franchises become a big mess, it becomes all the peripheral stuff, and that's what we're dealing with Chicago. When I say peripheral stuff, I mean general manager job security, head coach job security, quarterback job security, and free agents. Do they even want to play for your team anymore?
Well, I got a question in for TJ and for you at the same time. So TJ, let's just say, right, because we were just talking about Jameis Winston as well. So if Chicago, for some odd reason, decides to say, you know what, we don't have any more use for Trubisky, do you then decide to do a fair trade and take over the reins of Trubisky and bring him down to New Orleans and then send Jameis Winston up to Chicago? Or do you rather take a hard pass on Trubisky?
Look, the thing about it is, I think the Bears already gave up on Mitchell Trubisky. You gave up on him when you didn't give him his fifth-year option. So I'm pretty sure that Mitchell Trubisky, if he's a smart man, and I'm pretty sure he is because he went to North Carolina. I mean, you can't be a dummy and go to North Carolina. So I'm pretty sure he sees the writing on the wall. As far as Mitchell Trubisky, the guy just needs. I just feel like he needs an organization that believes in him. First off, let's just go ahead and say it. The guy was a bust, okay? He had no business getting picked that high. And you know when you get picked that high, it comes high expectations. The whole entire city expects for you to come in and just automatically bring results to the organization. And I just feel like he was not ready for prime time. I don't feel like he was ready to have all that on his shoulders. As far as with the Saints, absolutely not. I will have to pass on that. I think that we're okay with Jameis Winston. I do feel like the Chicago Bears just need to go ahead and blow the whole thing up, man. I just think that there's way too many egos in the Bears organization right now. I think the general manager, he needs to exit stage left as well. And I just think that they just need to start with a young quarterback. You know, the Chicago Bears fan base, I mean, look, they need a guy that can sling it. They need a guy that everybody can just believe in. It's just so sad watching the Chicago Bears just have one of the best defenses year in, year out, and they have absolutely no quarterback that can get the ball down the field. I mean, look, Jim McMahon, you know what I'm saying? You got to go way back to Jim McMahon. You know what I'm saying? When it was during the Super Bowl shuffle the last time, they had some production at the quarterback position. I know they get upset when they watch people like Deshaun Watson and they watching people like Patrick Mahomes because those guys could have been with this organization. They deserve better. So I feel so bad for the Chicago Bears organization for them to have that lights out defense and just have mediocrity at the quarterback position. Just blow the whole thing up.
Well, it's funny too because Ryan Pace came from the New Orleans Saints organization,
right?
He referenced, he doesn't do it as much anymore, but early on in his tenure with the Bears, he would constantly reference New Orleans and the way things were done there. But you know that he has not been. He tried to replicate that. He thought he had the next Drew Brees when he was drafting Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously, far from it. He's done a good job of building the defense, but he's been nowhere to be found as far as the offense is concerned. I mean, Allen Robinson is about his only gem, and that came in free agency, not in the draft. And, you know, they have a young receiver in Darnell Mooney, but for whatever reason, and it's been a long time Chicago bugaboo, he's not been able to build an offense.
No.
That's true. And in case, if everyone's joining in just now, we have, of course, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you again, TJ, for coming on with us. Of course, Mark, and Mark, don't shoot me, please, because I know I might get it wrong again, but Mark Grote, Chicago Bears sideline reporter. I finally got it right. Chicago Bears sideline reporter, and from 670 The Score. So, and I appreciate both of you guys coming on. Mark, I know you have limited time because you do have an engagement at 4 o'clock. And so my thing is, of course, with the Bears, we've seen now Nick being hurt again for the second time. We saw Trubisky come in, obviously now as Nick's backup. Something doesn't seem right in Chicago. I don't know if, again, it's just things are falling apart. If Matt Nagy has given up on the team or the team players have given up on Matt Nagy, what's the feeling in Chicago when it comes to Matt Nagy still being the head coach for Chicago Bears?
Well, right now everything's up in the air. I mean, one popular opinion that I feel like a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon of is that Ryan Pace would go for sure, and they would bring in a new general manager or whatever the title might be, new football person, and that person would decide whether or not Matt Nagy stays on as head coach of the Bears. The thing with Matt Nagy has always been that he is the proverbial good leader of men. The players in that locker room respect him. He's got that part down. He has built a really good culture, even through some really bad times in the last 2 years, and this obviously being his worst time. For the most part, the players stand behind him. Players that I've spoken to, swear by him as a leader. It's just, unfortunately, the part that he doesn't have down yet because he's a young coach or for whatever reason is game day, is making decisions. At times he has looked a little bit overwhelmed to the point where he did pass along play calling to his offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, who, again, will call plays this week when the Bears play the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson, incidentally. So, yeah, I mean, he's a wholly likable guy, and that doesn't mean much to people probably watching this podcast, but it probably does carry some weight in the Bears front office and with the McCaskies who run the show, George McCaskey specifically. So he's got, like I said, he's got half the job down. It's the other half that he doesn't. And would that be enough to save him if they think that he can grow in that position? So it's at this point too, it's all of us speculating because we've not heard from Ryan Pace, the general manager, really about any of this, from the media at large, nor have we heard a peep out of George McCaskey, the chairman of the board, the guy who would ultimately make the decision. So this is just all us talking right now.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, thanks. 2 questions. Do you think Nagy has lost the locker room there in Chicago as being the head coach?
I don't think he has. It's a little bit harder for us to tell because obviously we're not allowed in the locker room where I'd be able to go up to players and have private off the mic conversations. But when we ask those questions, and albeit on Zoom and in a group setting, and what the hell else are they going to say, there does seem to be some sincerity in the like I said, he's a wholly likable guy. He really is. And it's hard to get on his bad side. I mean, he's kind of like the Ned Flanders of football. You know what I mean? He's almost too nice. And, he's at a couple of press conferences where he was throwing friggins out there. And we're all like, whoa, bring it down out there, fella. So, that's how he is. He is forever positive. It's hard to break Matt Nagy out of that. So, there's always going to be players that don't like the boss, really, in any job, in any corporation, and for any NFL team. So I'm positive that there are players that don't like Nagy or don't like what's going on and would rather see a different coach in there. But to answer your question, for the most part, he does still have this locker room, and from what I see, has not lost the locker room.
Rumor has it in Philly that Doug Peterson here is on the hot seat. Now, a local radio station had John Clayton on, formerly of ESPN, the other day, and they said rumor that was out there if Nagy did get fired is Doug Peterson could be headed to Chicago. Now, I don't know if that's probably just hearsay or anything floating around out there.
We do. I got to tell you, we do great stuff in these kind of forums and sports talk radio and just making stuff up. Like, it's great. Like, you know what the topics are around here in Chicago? Not just that Doug Peterson thing, but like everybody around here is talking about Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald, who is, Northwestern is in Chicago's backyard, about him leaving Northwestern to become the Bears head coach because Fitz is from here and he's a Bears fan. And we're just making this stuff up. So, like, it's a fun little parallel story to think about. And who knows, crazier things have happened. But the Doug Peterson thing, who knows? But I don't think that there's a real connection there. I think I'd be a little bit surprised. And the only reason I would say that is because he's the same type of coach as Matt Nagy. And you know how organizations are in any sport. It's all like when one guy goes out the door, you always bring in a different type of guy. The offensive guy goes out the door, you bring in the defensive coordinator. Right. The fiery baseball manager gets fired, you bring in the laid back, like in Chicago's case, Joe Madden, and then now David Ross is the Cubs manager. So I love it. I love this kind of talk and connecting dots like that. But I don't know that there's any reality to it.
Shout out to Northwestern winning today 27-10 over the University of Illinois. Mark, can you talk to us a little bit about the key free agents for the Chicago Bears? Because I'm sure down in New Orleans and in Philadelphia, we might have our eye on some of the key free agents that the Bears have at the end of the season.
Well, I think a guy that the Eagles should have their eye on, assuming they're not planning on doing any kind of rebuild or reload or anything like that, is Allen Robinson. And it's been he is the key free agent that the Bears have. It was widely thought that the Bears and Allen Robinson at the beginning of this year would get an extension done, and then it didn't happen. And then early in the season, Allen Robinson was sending out cryptic tweets and things on social media about the Bears and, kind of these cryptic things. And his teammates were all, hashtag extend Allen Robinson. And it hasn't happened. And it was just brought up again recently. And Robinson is he's a great guy and a great soldier. So he just kind of talks about, playing hard and winning games and all that kind of stuff. But, if the Bears can franchise him, so they could keep him around, they could still extend him, or they could let him go. So that's a key guy right there for the NFL world, because he's about to have his back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in a bad offense. I mean, that tells you just how good he is. So I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think he's the only really key free agent on the Bears that would be of interest to the rest of the NFL at this point.
Okay.
Unless you count Mitchell Trubisky,
Yeah, which he's listen. The only place he might be able to go might be the Carolina Panthers, because Teddy Bridgewater did not do the job in Carolina that everybody was expecting to. But then again, I mean, who knows? Teddy can, maybe the first year it wasn't so well for him, but he could turn, step up for the following season. But and I know we have to let you go here very soon because you have another thing to get to. But the surprise when it came to switching gears now over to MLB, wasn't a surprise to White Sox fans that the manager was fired after the season that the White Sox had.
No, it wasn't surprising. Ricky Renteria is the man who was fired, and there was just too many times where you saw Ricky Renteria, misuse players, misuse lineups, bullpen. I used the word overwhelmed earlier. Ricky Renteria is a good developmental manager, but he's not great at the next level guy. So I guess I was surprised that the White Sox did it, that they cleaned house in that regard, because they're known, for better or for worse, they're known for being too loyal to managers. So I was surprised the White Sox pulled the trigger, but just in terms of Ricky Renteria's managerial skills, I was not surprised about it. What blew us all out of the water was that his replacement was Tony La Russa. That still is still is a huge surprise to everybody around here.
He's like 80, right?
Yeah, he's like 80 going on 90. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
80, if I remember, he just recently got another DUI, so great way to start off his coach career again.
No.
Oh yeah. No. This place has been, crazy about the Tony La Russa story. People were skeptical before he had his first press conference, and people were like, some of his old school ideas, some of his thoughts on players kneeling for the anthem, they were just so old fashioned. And so people were already angry with him. And then the next day you hear about his DUI. So it's just if the White Sox win, everything will probably be okay with White Sox fans, but he has to win, or Tony La Russa's approval rating is going to go down even further than it is right now.
Right.
I have to agree. Well, Mark, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, because, again, I'm going to hide this comment here for a second. I thank you for coming on last minute. We do appreciate it. Of course, we want to get the update with the Bears, and we'll see. It's going to be interesting. There are, 4 games left? And
4 games to go. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys, or you probably hear some sort of Bears news on January 4th. The Bears play the Packers on January 3rd at Soldier Field, and then all bets are off after that. They could be part of that very dark Monday that occurs in the NFL for many teams, or maybe they get the approval rating up. Who knows? We'll see.
That is so true.
Give our best to Nick Foles.
What's that?
Give our best to Nick Foles.
You know what? No matter what, despite his poor play on the field, Nick Foles is a great guy. So I will give him
a guy.
Yeah, he's a great dude, and I wish him success. And he'll probably be the Bears' backup quarterback still next year. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, again, Mark, thanks for joining us again. If you guys want to hear more of Mark, you can go to 670thescore.com, ESPN AM radio, and you can view it on the website as well. Also, he's on Facebook, so I'm pretty sure if he gets the chance, you can check out messages you guys send to a messenger. But and of course, being the Chicago Bears silent reporter. So, Mark, thank you so much. We don't want to take up much more of your time again, because I know you have another commitment. So thank you, and I guess happy holidays. We'll speak to you before then.
Happy holidays to you guys. Enjoy the conversation. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So, TJay, thanks again for hanging around because of course we got to get back to you now with the Saints. And I see the comments coming in, so I want to make sure I get through a lot of the questions here before we let you go. As we were talking about between interesting enough, Mr. Trubisky, where he's going to have to need a home somewhere. It kind of, even though it's not Saints related anymore, but how do you feel as far as like Teddy Bridgewater came on last year? We know that with the Saints. Then he got the nod by Matt Rule to go over to Carolina, and it seems like it hasn't worked out much, too well for Teddy Bridgewater. Does even Carolina hang on to him for another year? Or is it one of those things that they decide to let Teddy go? And if it were up to you to decide where maybe Teddy, or take a guess where Teddy will go next, where do you believe he can be used next and which NFL team?
Well, I don't think it was all Teddy Bridgewater's fault. I mean, you got to look at the fact that the Carolina Panthers are a new football team. I mean, they were like the first team in NFL history to draft all defensive players. I mean, this is a young defense. This is a young coaching staff. These guys are just trying to figure it out. So, I mean, them having some growing pains did not surprise me at all, but there are some bright spots to this Carolina Panthers team. They play teams tough every single week. They just come on the receiving end of a loss from week to week. Teddy Bridgewater, I feel like he's going to get better. I mean, this is an offense that he's accustomed to. The Carolina Panthers kind of play the same type of offense that the Saints play. They got Joe Brady, who used to be the offensive coordinator for the LSU Tigers, but before that, he was one of the guys that was a part of the offensive staff in New Orleans. So I think that Teddy Bridgewater, he'll develop as a player. Those guys will start rallying behind one another, and I think that we'll figure out if Teddy Bridgewater is the guy in the 2021 season. I don't see the Carolina Panthers getting rid of him. They committed to him. They gave him a 3-year, $60 million contract. Most of that money is guaranteed. So I don't think that you just want to give up on a guy like that just 1 year in, especially when you got a new coaching staff.
TJ, as far as Drew Brees, depending on, if the Saints do win the Super Bowl, I'm not sure of his contract status, but do you possibly see this being Drew Brees last year in the NFL?
I definitely believe this is his last year. I mean, you look at the contract that he had, he signed a 2-year deal, but the most of that money came in year one. And the second year is more of a phantom deal. And not to mention, I mean, he already signed a contract with NBC Sports. So once he retires, he's going to have a job, probably going to be replacing Chris Collinsworth as the color commentator for Sunday Night Football. But, I mean, Drew Brees.
I'm sorry. He's just always past Philly, that's all. I mean, interrupt you. He's not a fan here.
Yeah, I've heard. I think I see it on a Football Life. I think they were talking about how Philadelphia fans feel about him. But you guys aren't the only one that have some very tough criticism about Chris Collinsworth, to say the least. But but back to Drew Brees, I do feel like this is going to be his last year. And if it is, I mean, Drew Brees has done so many great things for the city of New Orleans, the Saints organization. I mean, this guy took a snake-bitten franchise and made him legitimate. Over the past 15 years, he's been a quarterback. I mean, it used to be like when the Saints used to be on a team schedule, you used to automatically just put a W in the column. He made these guys respectable. He made these guys legitimate, and we're forever grateful to that. I don't want Drew Brees to be like one of those guys that you just parade out there, try to get every little ounce of talent you can up out of him. Let him go out on top, let him go out the best way that he can. He's given it his all. He's missed a couple games. I think he's going to come back still playing at a high level, and he's going to give it everything he has, try to get us back to the Super Bowl. But I do think this is going to be his last year. I think that's one of the reasons why the Saints have this sense of urgency, trying to get guys in this organization that can make the Saints win right now. Because, I mean, you don't know how many opportunities you're going to have. I mean, teams get better every year, and you don't want to be that team that you say years from now, what if we would have did this or what if we would have did that? I mean, the time is now. So
right.
Now, Ms. Jackson had a question earlier, so I want to make sure I reposted it. And I'm assuming she's talking about for this Sunday. Is Drew Brees playing this Sunday?
No, he's not playing this Sunday. And according to CBS Sports, they're saying that there's a possibility he might not play Week 15 against the Kansas City Chiefs, which I have no problem with. It's not like the Saints around here just getting slapped around and losing. I mean, the Saints,
Right.
since Drew Brees has went down over the past 2 years, he's been injured. The Saints are 8-0. I mean, so that goes to tell you the type of coaching staff that Sean Payton has. He has been doing an outstanding job of getting guys prepared and ready just in case somebody goes down. I mean, we've seen guys go down all season long at important positions for the Saints, and they still managed to win. It wasn't the most sexy win, but they get the win. They get the job done. So, it's not like one of those situations. I think that you need to sit Drew Brees, and you do have some members of the Who Dat Nation, Saints fans, who are saying that we want to see Drew Brees battle it out with Patrick Mahomes. Well, I'm not trying to risk the health of Drew Brees to try to win a game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I understand it's supposed to be the measuring stick. They're the Super Bowl champion or whatever. But I would prefer for the Saints to play the Kansas City Chiefs the second time. And that means if they play them the second time, that means they're playing them in a Super Bowl. So that's my main focus. Keep Drew Brees on the side as long as you possibly can. Get him as close to 100% as you possibly can. And, let's just try to make this run at a second Super Bowl championship for number 9.
Exactly.
In case we have anyone viewing the show right now, of course, we have TJ Jones, the host of State of the Saints podcast, and we thank TJ, of course, for coming on with us today. We do appreciate it, and it feels, truthfully, the way we've been going right now, that we've known each other for years because, of course, it's the passion of Philly and New Orleans, and it's almost the same way with Chicago. I mean, when cities start to feel each other, and they know what they expect out of players. It's funny when other people will say, "Oh, you guys are too hard on your players." And Philly, we know it. I mean, it's notorious all the way around. Phillies, Flyers, Sixers. I mean, you name it. Mm-hmm. It's a brutal city. But the funny thing is, even as hard as we are on the players, it makes them better. And 90% of the times, they go win championships elsewhere. I mean, We've seen it in hockey. We've seen the NBA. So it's just one of those things. But we do appreciate, of course, TJ coming on. And the one thing, of course, Alvin Kamara. Right, because he continues to, I don't know if I want to say it's like a domination, but it's year after year. Alvin it seems like he just gets better and better and better. What do we expect? And I do have a clip from him of how he feels he's going to play this Sunday as far as with the rest of the team. How do you feel that Alvin will step up this week against the Eagles?
Well, I think Alvin Kamara is probably the most consistent player on the Saints team this season. I mean, anything that you ask of him, I mean, he turns into gold. I mean, rather it's running between the tackles, catching out of the backfield, or even lining up in wide receiver positions like the slot or even on the outside. I mean, he had one catch that he caught. I don't think some wide receivers could catch. I think it was a game against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, this guy can do it all. And he has this confidence that most players don't have. Last season, a lot of people were wondering what was going on with him. He revealed that he was playing about 73% the majority of the season. He was just out there mostly as a decoy. But this season, I mean, he bounced back. He looks a little bit more bigger. He's a little bit more physical. I think he understands his role, and he does it really well. But what I am looking forward to seeing against the Philadelphia Eagles is something that I have not seen over the past couple of weeks. And that's Alvin Kamara catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, if you look at since Drew Brees has went down, his production catching the ball out the backfield has went down tremendously. I think he may have like maybe 3 or 4 catches since Drew Brees went down. I mean, Drew Brees, when he's in a game, Alvin Kamara might have more catches than a receiver does. So I would like to see some of his catches out of the backfield. And take advantage of some of the issues that you all are dealing with in Philadelphia at the linebacker position. I think that this can be a matchup for Alvin Kamara to win. So I would like to see him catch the ball out of the backfield. I think we know that he can run in between the tackles, but I think that his bread can be buttered in this game if Taysom Hill can get him the ball, in stride. I think that's something that Taysom Hill has struggled with, throwing the ball too high, throwing the ball too late, holding on to the ball too long, and it's causing some of those players that can possibly make plays to not make them. So hopefully we can get them in a passing game and take advantage of some of the issues that defensively that Philadelphia are dealing with.
My take is a lot of people are forgetting about Latavius Murray and Jared Cook, which, or Latavius Murray, I mean, I know he's not Mark Ingram, but I think he's filled in nicely with you guys for the last couple of years. And, it's like Alvin Kamara, but you don't hear much about Latavius Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say often on the State of the Saints podcast, Latavius Murray reminds me of that bridesmaid that has like 5 friends, right? And has been a bridesmaid at all 5 of the friends' wedding, but never had a wedding of her own. That's who he reminds me of. I mean, everywhere that Latavius Murray has went, he has been effective. When he was out in Oakland didn't want to pay him, so he ended up going to Minnesota. He did a really good job out there. What did they do? They went out there and got Dalvin Cook. He has always been a consistent player, but teams never wanted to commit to him. I've always liked Latavius Murray. And when Mark Ingram went to Baltimore, you had a lot of eyebrows being raised, about Latavius Murray, but I was actually excited about it. And if you look at Latavius Murray's production and you put it up against Mark Ingram, it was almost identical. The thing about it is, it just teams don't want to commit to Latavius Murray. I don't know if it's just the fact of his laid-back demeanor. Maybe they don't feel like he has an edge. But every time you ask him to come into the game, he goes out there and he becomes effective. He takes advantage of his carries. Rather, it's 10 to 11 carries. He's going to give you that 5 yards a carry that most teams want their running backs to have. And he's one of those, what I like to call preheat running backs. The guy that you give him more carries, the better he's going to get, the stronger he's going to get as the game goes on. You watch that game that they had against the Denver Broncos, he had 124 yards rushing in that game. So if you give Latavius Murray opportunities, he will hit it out of the park. I mean, this guy leaned forward and he can get you about 5 yards. I mean, he's about 6'3", 225. So he's definitely a guy that is very underrated. And I'm glad that he is a part of the Saints organization. That's one of my biggest knocks on Sean Payton, that he doesn't utilize Latavius Murray enough.
I agree. I mean, Eagles have, multiple running backs here. Corey Clement, we just signed Jordan Howard back to the practice squad, and he played last week. And just, Doug's just pass happy like Andy Reid. Just doesn't run the ball enough. He'll start running it, get a nice consistency going, and he'll get away from it. And, which has been, Achilles heel of the Eagles for the last couple of years.
Have people in New Orleans complained about the schedule making for this year, that New Orleans is playing their third game in a row on the road? I mean, they catch a break in the fact that they're playing an Eagles team that is having a decimated offensive line, and now they're starting Hurts instead of Wentz. But here's New Orleans, a perennial team that's in the running for the playoffs, and that first seed is on the line. And the schedule makers have done New Orleans no favors by having to play 3 in a row on the road. Can you tell us if any fans have complained about that in your city?
Well, no, absolutely not. And I think maybe it would have been an issue if fans were actually allowed in the stadiums. If it was like in full capacity, maybe we would have a little bit more, complaints about that. But it hasn't been an issue. I mean, this is a year like none other, right? I mean, home field advantage isn't home field advantage, right? You had at the beginning of the season. You had the Saints taking on the Green Bay Packers inside the Superdome, and the Saints were jumping off sides and Aaron Rodgers hard count. I mean, that's unheard of in an away game. That a quarterback would be able to have his home cadence inside of an away game. So I don't think it's like that. If it probably was like regular seasons that we're accustomed to, maybe, but I don't think that's a concern, because if you look at the Saints' record over the past couple of years, the Saints are one of the best teams to play on the road. I mean, I don't know what this whole, the Saints need the Superdome in order for them to win games. I don't know where that came from. I understand that the Saints fan base, just like the Eagles fan base, I mean, it can get loud at the link, like it get loud just like it get at the Superdome, so I get it. But at the same time, I mean, this team has been battle tested on the road. They have been road warriors. So I don't look at it that way. So maybe if it just was a regular season where we didn't have to deal with COVID, then maybe. But there hasn't been any complaints.
Well, I've been to about 10 or 12 NFL stadiums, and I would say the Superdome is definitely rocking, and that crowd, Who Dat Nation is just lights out. I mean, people talk about the Eagles fans of Veterans Stadium. It was like nobody could really win there. And
Right.
Seattle being the 12th man, but the Superdome, you can't even hear yourself thinking that just by the one time I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think that Veterans Day, I mean, you wasn't going to win there because how terrible it was. Everybody used to complain about how bad the field was.
That was nothing but cement and a little bit of AstroTurf. That's all it was out there at Veterans Stadium.
That was pretty much just welcome to hell and the hostile environment of the real 12th man.
Exactly. Y'all had the 13 man in that matter. 13. Right. Yeah, you had the fans and then you had the field too, you know.
Right. Batteries and beer being thrown and snowballs and the rest of the history itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sure is. But I'm going to show here the real quick clip of Alvin Kamara. He's talking about the upcoming game here against the Birds.
I think it's the culture of our organization. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, like, you know, everybody in our locker room has a role, you know, and I think that it shows, you know, every Sunday, even like we talking about injuries and, you know, just things happening. I think we're more equipped than any other organization that I see to be able to withstand some of these bumps and bruises and this adversity. You know, I haven't been anywhere else, but I mean, from talking to other people that have been multiple places, they're like, man, y'all a well-oiled machine, and you know, it's the best run organization that I've seen, and this, that. But you know, I mean, I think we all know we got a great coach and a great locker room, great front office, great, you know, everything here. So we just want to play for each other. Everybody has a job to do. Everybody has a role. So somebody goes down, it's next up.
What Alvin, of course, it was a longer press conference that went along there, so I just trying to put a little snippet together as far as when it comes to what he was saying. But probably one of the, at least the most nostalgic running backs we've ever seen from the Saints organization. I mean, if I can't go that far back as on this side from what the Saints have done in the past, but I mean, Alvin seems like, again, it's a step up every single time, and I don't know what he does as far as the line, how he talks to him, you know, as when it comes to the O-line, but it just seems like he always has the right thing to say, especially if the Saints are down. And I know he's not much of a voice heard that we can see on TV or on camera, but silently you can see that Alvin is always there in someone's ear saying something, doing the right thing. And it's the best thing is obviously you never see him doing something wrong, at least hear about some of the things that the NFL players do in their offseason. But I think Alvin is probably, I want to say, probably the least talked about in the NFL, because you have that Dallas team that's not that far away from you guys, and Ezekiel Elliott, which I don't even think he should get the contract that he got. It's funny how he'll get more talk than Alvin. And I don't know how you feel, but to me, I think he's that hidden gem definitely for the Saints, but even for all running backs in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if I could just put it in terms that you all as Eagles fans can understand, he is our Brian Westbrook. You know, like how much, you know, Westbrook actually meant to y'all, you know, like as far as like being a smart football player, catching the ball out of backfield and always like doing the right things, you know, like that's who he is, you know. And he's probably one of the most down to earth superstar that you can actually ever see. Like, this guy, you could catch him at 10 o'clock at night walking through the French Quarter like he's not Alvin Kamara. Like he's the type of guy who he's just a normal guy. You know, he just does just all the right things. It makes you feel comfortable. You look at his press conferences, it's almost like he's having a conversation sitting at a dinner table with his friends. I mean, he's the same guy, you know, off the field that he is on the field. You know, he's a guy who a lot of people love in the Who Dat Nation and respect. And as far as what the Ezekiel Elliott thing is concerned, look, I expect that. The Dallas Cowboys, you know, they're always going to get their press clippings. But I feel like if you're not watching Alvin Kamara and what he is doing this season, then you're doing yourself an injustice because this guy has been doing some spectacular things. Every single week he does something that just stands out and just makes you say, wow. And I think that he should be like one of the front runners for Offensive Player of the Year. We are fortunate as a fan base. I mean, you got guys that could be up for the Defensive Player of the Year, DeMario Davis and Trey Hendrickson, and then you got a guy like can be up for Offensive Player of the Year like Alvin Kamara. I mean, this guy has been the most consistent thing going to New Orleans this whole entire season. Guys have went down, and he has been there, you know. And then also what I like about him is he's smart. He's not out here trying to put his body on the line all the time. If he feel like he can fight for extra yards, he does that. He's not afraid to go out of bounds, to try to save himself to fight another day. He's a really smart player, and we're fortunate to have him. And him coming into the organization in the third round in 2017. I mean, he has been a godsend to this organization.
It's a guy we definitely could have used here.
Yeah. Sure could have. Now, you just brought up DeMario, and we talked about it a little bit earlier beforehand. And DeMario Davis, from what we saw, was the Saints nominated him for Man of the Year, and I believe he has that award from the Saints. He's also up for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And of course, we don't get to see a lot what DeMario does obviously in New Orleans, around New Orleans. So what has he done other than obviously we see on the playing field? What has he done in a community that has pretty much acknowledged the team to say, you know what, he is the Man of the Year recipient?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, DeMario Davis has done so many wonderful things, not just in the city of New Orleans, but just all across the country. I mean, ever since, the whole issue about social justice and some of these things that are going on with, police brutality. And I mean, this guy has went on Capitol Hill and talked in front of Congress, trying to, create change in this community and in his world at large. And I mean, he has given water like to Flint, Michigan, when they've been having water issues, which they're still dealing with water issues. I mean, just because it's not in the news doesn't mean it went away. But he has been out there, and he has been doing stuff all across his country. And one thing that I do admire about him the most, he's doing all of this. And at the same time, his youngest daughter, who is a year old at this time, she had eye cancer. She had to get her eye removed. So can you imagine like a father, that is dealing with that, but at the same time is thinking about the world and the country as a whole, to go out there to give himself to this nation, to try to be that mouthpiece, to be that representation for change and acknowledgement, by the National Football League. So this guy's an incredible human being. I mean, he speaks very candid about it. He talked about how he thought about sitting out for the last season. I mean, for this last season, not even coming because of his daughter. And he talked about some of the issues he felt like were more important than just playing football. But the guy is just an incredible human being. Like, just sitting and listening to this guy, I mean, you have to be, you got to be a zombie not to feel something when this guy speaks, because he's so passionate. And sometimes like you can listen to a person talk and you can tell if it's disingenuous and maybe, there's something that they're trying to get out of you or something, but it's not coming from an organic place. You won't get that from DeMario Davis. To me, and maybe I am being a little bit biased because I am a Saints fan, but I don't think there's anybody that I would want to give the Walter Payton Man of the Year award to even more than DeMario Davis. I mean, this guy's been through it all, man. I only can imagine what he's been through. I mean, and I can relate to that, not from a sickness standpoint, but I do have a 1-year-old son. And I think about there are things that, I couldn't imagine what I would do if it means that, he'll never be hurt or, anything that I can do in order to make sure he never has to experience that type of pain. So just to know that his daughter is actually going through that, you have to go home and deal with that. And then at the same time, you have to practice. And then at the same time, you're dealing with some of these social justice issues. This guy is my Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Sounds
It's funny because we know that a lot of people don't try and take life for granted. It sounds like DeMario does the same exact way, but sometimes we complain about the dumbest things. Like we can walk into, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, someone like, man, I went in there to go get whatever. My coffee wasn't ready in a minute. Meantime, he's dealing with a bigger situation when it comes to his daughter, and still finds a way to bring not only him but everybody together. I mean, listen, hats off to the man, because it takes a lot, and hopefully he will end up winning it. But I want to get to the clip where he talks about it when he was asked a question from the Saints earlier this week with from their interview, good Lord, press conference. Sorry.
Press conference, yeah.
And then the other thing I want to show as well before I end up getting to that, because this is where I take a little pun when it comes to the Eagles. But here's DeMario when he gets everyone pumped up just before the game starts.
Word of the day is unleashed.
Yeah.
Okay? First, unleash your skill set.
Can't hold it back.
Man, you done sharpened your act.
Can't do it.
You done sharpened. unleash it with execution, with precision today. Number two, unleash violence. It's a physical game. Every time you run to your opponent, make sure he feel you. And most importantly, unleash the beast. Man, it's a monster inside you. That monster got to eat. All the way eat. We're going to make it play. Let's go, man. Come on. 6 on 3, 6 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
See, now, to me, right?
I'm ready to play.
Exactly. That's what when I saw him, like, you got to be kidding me. Because now, here's what I think the part of the Eagles, right? Because you look at DeMario, he's getting everybody pumped up. It's almost like B-Dog, when B-Dog used to get the whole, team pumped up before the game started.
Yeah.
To me, the way it's felt right now with the Eagles is like, y'all ready to play? Did y'all eat your Wheaties? No? Oh, okay, well, let's go kind of because that's the way it's felt lately here in Philly. So it's not the same, but I'm telling you, the man's a beast. I will say that much. And to get to the other clip here, when he talks about as far as who was asked the question about being the man of the year for the Saints.
It's definitely a humbling thing to happen. I don't really know if I can put it into words. To know that I'm looked at, by my organization in that manner, that they saw fit to put me there, is definitely a blessing and something that I don't take for granted. It's especially means a lot to me, especially in this year. I just think 2020 has just been a hard year for a lot of people, and something that I try to represent is just hope. Everybody that I help, everybody that I serve, it's all in light of trying to bring hope to that individual or that group or that community. And so in a time where so much is going on and so many people have had to deal with so much, I hope that they can look to me as a symbol or a representative of hope, because ultimately that's all I want to bring. I want to be able to help people find hope, and I want to be able to point them to hope. So in a year like 2020, to be selected as the Saints Man of the Year, it means a lot, and it's definitely a blessing.
No, it's crazy thing, right? Because you nailed it earlier when you talked about how he is and how people can be either phony or they can be themselves or pretend not to be. So you look at just the clip before that, right? We're ready to get up, go out in the field. I don't care if it's man. I'm like, listen, I'm ready to go. DeMario just told me, let's go. Come on, we're playing, right? So then you look at when he talks about it on, again, during a press conference, the humble. And you could tell he's so humble. Like, that's genuine. And to find that these days is getting to be a little bit harder because some of these players, like, I know they got accolades. I know they win different awards and everything else. But, listen, he's got my vote. I may not be a Saints fan, belong to the Saints organization. Doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of a human, especially of a man who's trying to do better for him, the family, and the world. So he's got my vote for Man of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a great person. Like, I think I never like just look at a person and just be like, oh man, just because they said the right things in the press conference, oh, they're such a great person. I mean, I followed this guy's career like throughout his entire time in NFL, like even like when he was with the Browns and the Jets. And I remember like when the Saints actually played the Jets, it was the year before he actually came to the Saints. He was like all over the field. And, I was just wondering, I'm like, who this Davis guy is? I didn't even know. I mean, I was like, and I looked him up, and just the person that he is, man, the stuff that he does in the community, just some of the like the interviews that you've seen, like I guarantee you, like the guy is just so candid about his feelings, and that person that you see in the middle of that circle is like, how is this person like this off the field, and on the field he's talking about driving, you know what I'm saying, like driving the spear to the heart of your opponent. Like it's crazy, but man, he's just a solid dude, man, just a good dude, and I think every team needs a guy like DeMario Davis on.
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to go back here and kind of flip it back. Mike, unless you have something else.
I don't know.
I'm going to go back to a couple of questions, of course, because we don't want to take up too much of your time. And again, if you guys have just joined us, we've had TJay Jones on from the host of State of the Saints podcast. And we appreciate you coming on. And so I want to get back here to, let's go back. I know Rick had a question beforehand, or no, Rick had a statement before. He said, I've been saying the Birds will win for 12 weeks. And as the holiday season and miracles do happen. So we'll see. Ms. Jackson came out with, she said, well, you have to give Wentz another year because of his salary. Not just his salary, because the Eagles are just not going to give up on him that quick. Kimo, who's been saying who dat, and of course, you got Jay, Michael Alexander. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming from the fan base alone, just from New Orleans, a lot of these guys end up knowing each other. But I appreciate Kimo and Jay and Michael Alexander. There's a couple other guys that I've seen. Thank you for the comments. We do appreciate it, especially from the Saints Nation. Looking at Rick. Rick was a good fan and friend of the show. He says if the defense can keep pressure on Hill for 4 quarters, we have a chance. How do you feel about that?
I think that if any team keep pressure on a quarterback for 4 quarters, I think they can win a game. I mean, that's the recipe for success, right? Look, I just feel like the Philadelphia Eagles. To me, I just feel like there's something inside of the organization I know people are not really talking about. I think Zach Ertz, he's still a little bit upset about the contract situation. Alshon, I think he just lost in the lights. He just ready for the season to be over. And I just think that some of the issues on the offensive line, it's just a lot going on with Philadelphia. Me personally, I don't understand how you even consider trying to fire a coach that got you a Super Bowl about 3 years ago. I still think that you need to get him an opportunity to try to resurrect, that team. If I can put my finger on what's really going on with Carson Wentz, number one, I would have to say it's his confidence. I think his confidence was killed on draft day when the Philadelphia Eagles decided to get Jalen Hurts. If you believe in a quarterback, if you believe that he is the future, if you believe that he is the guy that's going to take you to multiple Super Bowl appearances, you do not go early and get yourself a quarterback, okay? Not just any quarterback, a quarterback with some name, a quarterback that a lot of people recognize and that can do things that are opposite of the quarterback that you have, right? I mean, so you don't do that. So I think that his confidence was shot at the beginning in the offseason, okay? And then you have to think about that in the back of your mind. And then not to mention a couple of years ago, your teammates saying that they felt like you was kind of phony, and disingenuous in some of the things that you're doing, and they respect the backup quarterback more than you. I mean, come on, man. And last but not least, you lost a guy that actually was your whisperer in Frank Reich. I don't think people are paying attention to how important Frank Reich was to this offense and how beneficial he was to the success of Carson Wentz. I mean, he almost didn't leave. Just think about this if you're a Colts fan. I know we're talking about the Eagles, but think about this if you're a Colts fan. You were this close not getting Frank Reich because you wanted to get Josh McDaniels. So think about that. And look at Frank Reich now. Frank Reich has the Indianapolis Colts right in the thick of things in the AFC South. So I just think that if you want to think about maybe sending him somewhere like Indianapolis, I think that you'll probably look back and be like, man, why did we get rid of Carson Wentz? I think the issue is I think he needs somebody that can be his quarterback whisperer. We see it out there in Los Angeles with Sean McVay and Jared Goff. You need that guy in your ear that can help you see the field better. And I feel like Carson Wentz needs that. And also, look, you got to find out what you're going to do with Jalen Hurts. It's going to be Jalen Hurts or it's going to be Carson Wentz. You cannot keep these guys on the same team. It's kind of similar to RG3 and Kirk Cousins. You cannot keep these guys on the same team. It's a confidence issue with Carson Wentz right now. So, yeah.
No, go ahead. I mean, didn't mean to call you off.
No, you're fine. I was done.
I mean, I totally agree with you about Carson because he's been sacked 46 times, most in the NFL. He's had like 11 or 12 different offensive line changes switched around. And, I mean, how do you expect to feel? Like, nobody's blocking for you. You're getting banged around. You're holding on to the ball. I just think he needs, Jeff Garcia came out this week or the other day and said, you got to take a step back, which I think he does.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you bring in the right offensive coordinator, get Doug Peterson to stop calling the plays, he might resurrect back to, 2017 MVP form, which my personal opinion, Carson Wentz should have been the MVP, not Tom Brady. But
yeah, I agree. if he didn't tear everything that he had, you probably would have had him as the MVP. And guys just don't forget about playing football. They don't forget. Right. I just think that he just needs somebody. He needs somebody in his ear that can steer him in the right direction. And look, if Doug Peterson wants to keep his job, I mean, you got to make a tough decision here. I mean, sometimes you got to put your ego to the side and just realize that maybe I just need somebody else in here that can see things differently from me. Maybe I need a different set of eyes. You need that offensive coordinator. Like, I understand Philadelphia Eagle fans are upset. I think his record after the Super Bowl has been 22-21. But at the same time, 3 straight playoff appearances. Like last year alone, I feel like the way that you all rallied into the playoff, winning the NFC East, needs to tell you everything you need to know about Carson Wentz. I mean, the guy just, I feel like he just needs that one guy that can be in his ear to give him that direction, to help him see the field a little bit better, and maybe get rid of Jalen Hurts and send him somewhere else. I mean, that's just what it is. You're not going to be able to keep the same, he cannot think and focus when he knows that maybe he has a very short leash. You have to have him believe that you're buying in to what he has to offer.
And you never know, this could be a 4-week audition for Jalen Hurts. And if he proves himself to be a really good quarterback and the Eagles decide to keep Wentz because of the money, he could be trade bait on draft day. And there's a couple teams in the NFL who can use a starting quarterback. So this is a great opportunity for Jalen Hurts. I don't know if throwing him into the mix against a team as strong as New Orleans is the answer, but I guess we will see. Because after this week, the Eagles have 3 games left, one against Arizona, at Dallas, and then they're home the DC team down there who's fighting for the NFC East title. So I guess it remains to be seen what's going to happen with Jalen Hurts.
Well, I got a question for you. I got a question for you. Well, it's 2 questions, actually. Number 1, do you feel like Jalen Hurts could possibly be the answer? And number 2, whose idea was it to draft Jalen Hurts?
Howie Roseman, first of all, as far as drafting him in 2nd round. And with the Eagles having so many other needs, offensive line, linebacker, D-back, wide receiver, the list goes on and on, where this team has so many holes to fill. He just pulls Jalen Hurts out of the air. Where rumor was Jim Schwartz, Eagles defensive coordinator, wanted Patrick Queen at number 2. So,
do you think he's the future? Do you think he's the future of the franchise?
I say no.
Well, back to what Mike was saying, to piggyback off that. I mean, hey, if Jalen Hurts could go 4-0, 3-1, like, who knows? I mean, the contract is really the issue, which I'm sure they could get around. But I think if the Eagles did trade Wentz, they probably have to eat up a good portion of that contract.
I mean, Jalen Hurts was definitely an effective quarterback on the college level, but as all 4 of us know, that doesn't always transfer to the big stage in the National Football League. I mean, before I say that Jalen Hurts is not going to be the future of the Eagles, I think that in Philadelphia, we owe him the opportunity to at least have that audition for 4 weeks. Personally, I don't think it's going to work out, but I've been wrong before, and, let's see what happens. Unfortunately, he's in a bad situation tomorrow against a Saints team who has been very strong this year, looking to get to the Super Bowl.
The one good thing, and if you guys have seen me smile and giggle a little bit, because you may not be able to see the comments the way I see them.
I see them.
The golden part about being a podcast versus being on the radio, because you can get a natural reaction. So first we had, of course, not DeMario Davis come on, and he said, "Tell him, TJ, I'm the man." Then the next one, he follows it with, "TJ, we're building a wall of fart around Drew Brees." But then you got Carson Wentz, who decides to join the podcast. And boy, this just started cracking me up here. So the first one comes out, and he says, "I ain't got no confidence no more." Let's just face it. Then he follows it up with, "Question for TJ, how do I get my confidence back? I'm lost." He then goes on, it's just the next 2 are just as bad. But he says, "I need somebody. Thanks, TJ. You restored my faith in myself." So he leaves it with that one. Then Jalen Hurts decided to join the program, and Jalen says, I'd be hurting your quarterbacks.
Oh.
the best one thing out of them all, he comes around and says, "I'm the future, fools." It's amazing how quick people can just make up the accounts and put it out there, but it's true. And they're got to get it back a little bit on a serious note. Jay McIntyre says that I said it last week when Tony Bruno was on. If the Colts lose in round 1, Carson will be traded to the Colts, and who knows? I mean, that could be the truth.
Yeah.
Who knows? And of course, and then Jalen Hurts follows up with "Y'all owe me one."
How you doing, Jalen?
Good luck tomorrow.
Listen, Jalen out there. I said last week that the Eagles were going to beat Green Bay, and I was wrong. And I need the man up. I said that the Eagles would beat the Saints this week, and with all the changes on the offensive line and Jalen Hurts starting, I can't back away from that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm going to go with the angle. Saints are playing their 3rd in a row on the road. Maybe they're looking ahead to the Chiefs. Maybe Taysom Hill gets a little bit of fumbleitis and the Eagles can recover a turnover or not. I'm putting it out there. My prediction, Eagles 20, Saints 19. Now, I could be completely wrong. This has all the makings on paper. This has all the makings on paper of the Saints winning the game in Philly, 35-10. But I don't know. I'm saying it. Eagles 20, Saints 19. And I'm curious to hear your predictions as well for a final score of tomorrow's game.
Back to what you were saying, TJ. I mean, to me in the pandemic, I think home or road advantage means nothing.
Yeah.
There's no fans. The link's empty. Every other stadium has, a mix of fans depending where you're at. But to me, I really don't think it really matters where you play. Take the crowd factor out of it.
Yeah.
It's home field advantage don't mean jack, and being on the road, it's pretty much like you're playing preseason.
Right.
But in the real season.
Yeah. I just think the only person I feel like it would be beneficial for is Drew Brees if you're a Saints fan. I mean, you're a 41-year-old quarterback. Of course, an extra week of rest going into, the playoffs would be beneficial to him. But besides that, like I say, even if you have home field advantage, I mean, a team comes in. I mean, if the mayor would allow you to, most would be in attendance in that game would probably be what about 9,000? That's not going to break any eardrums. So
right.
I just think that it's about playing disciplined football. I feel like the most disciplined team, the most well prepared team is going to end up winning. And I think that this year you're really going to find out who is the best team. Like sometimes crowd noise can play a factor. Just team jumping off sides. The most disciplined team, the most prepared team is going to be the Super Bowl champion this year. That won't be disputed.
Go ahead, Mike.
Is there a rallying cry in New Orleans of "We want the Rams" in the playoffs, or is there a rallying cry in New Orleans of "We want Tom Brady one more time"?
To be honest with you, I feel like some of the New Orleans Saints fans, they want the easiest route possible. I think they want the Green Bay Packers more than any other team because they feel like even though Green Bay beat us at the beginning of the season, I don't feel like anybody thinks of them as a real potential threat. I mean, Aaron Rodgers can get hot, but I just think that they look like that can be a game that they can actually win. I would say that none of them want to see the Minnesota Vikings if they end up going to the playoffs. They don't want to see them. But as far as the Rams, no, I don't hear anything about the Rams. But I just think that the team that they want to see most is the Green Bay Packers. And if you can just so happen to get the Green Bay Packers, they'll feel comfortable with that.
That's true. Listen, I want to get to two questions that was asked earlier, but of course. So your backup quarterback took the time right now to stop practicing and another resting up for tomorrow. But so Jameis Winston chimes in and he says, "How come Jalen gets a chance to start, but I don't?" Something stinks about that. So and something you referred to earlier is Funbitis times in. He says, "I love me some Taysom Hill."
Yeah, I believe him. I believe him. Eight fumbles this season. Lost what? He lost 4 of them. So fumbleitis definitely loves Taysom Hill this season.
We got Dr. Drew says the Saints win it 28-10. Jay McIntyre comes back. He says that Doug Peterson resigns or gets fired, he will be the Jets or Texans head coach. And I don't personally, I don't see that. So to kind of before I go with the other comments, so TJ, what happened was when Doug was hired, Jeffrey Lurie had a conversation with him and basically told him, okay, you're here, but you're not guaranteed a long-term deal. Obviously, because of the major fallout when it came to Chip Kelly, and thank God he was ran out of town, because when you start reaching into the pockets of the NFL, especially Eagles organizations, like, hold on for a second. You don't call the shots anymore. I do. Now, out of that, Howard Roseman for a minute came, strong from coming out back from the closet, because he put him in the closet, told him, Howie, you do your part, you stay over there. I'm going to take care of this team. So then Howie comes out and comes out firing the next season. And, of course, things worked out for the Eagles for the most part.
Right.
But Jeffrey told Doug, hey, by the way, just because you're here, it's not a long-term deal, and we're going to reevaluate this in 2 years. Now, thankfully, in those 2 years, Doug wins the Super Bowl. But now you fast forward another 2 to 3 years later, and now Jeffrey Lurie had a conversation with Doug, basically tell him, listen, I don't forget about when I first hired you back there, when you took over from Chip Kelly and you started things good. So I don't see necessarily Doug being fired by Jeffrey Lurie. Will there be changes? Maybe, he takes things away from what Jeffrey has right now or what Doug has at the moment. Maybe he tells him you're not playing the calls anymore. Things are switching around. And if he does get let go, like Jay McIntyre was saying not too long ago, to me, it's one of those things that even if Doug decides to resign for whatever odd reason, which I don't see that happening either, but if he does, I think it's then having the conversation with Deuce Staley, who's the assistant head coach, to be put in the place for Doug Peterson. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a comment about that as well. But so Doug has been told by Jeffrey Lurie that you don't have complete control, and obviously it shows with Howie Roseman. But at the same time, too, I'm pretty sure there's been some in-depth conversation. I would love to be a fly on the wall to see what's going to change for Doug and what Doug is going to do to get Carson Wentz, because that's a major contract. If it's true, it's going to be a major contract to dump to some team, and who's going to absorb that contract? And even then, you're talking about salary cap hit that for something that we can't even take, or the Eagles organization can't even take come next year, because they're capped out at this point. So it's going to be almost like a Belichick era on here for the next 2 years. The draft choices that you make, you're going to have to get obviously on the low and the cheap before all these bigger contracts start coming off the books. So Doug has been forewarned of what's going on.
Right. Well, shame on Howie Roseman if, he's not putting trust in Doug Peterson. I mean, you can't on one hand trust this guy to coach your team and win you a championship and still have that same type of energy for him. And let's not get it twisted here. What they say, another man's junk is another man's treasure, right? So if the Philadelphia Eagles are looking at this guy as, let's go ahead and dump him, I'm pretty sure there are going to be several teams lining up to try to get Doug Peterson, and they're going to give him as much, leeway as they can. Any opportunity, that they feel like that can help them become a better organization, they're going to do it. And if they feel like Doug Peterson is the guy, they're going to snatch him up, and they're going to allow Doug Peterson to come in and bring his guys in and do it his way. So I get it, man. I mean, it seems like that's some type of, I don't know, NFC East culture or something like that, where you have the GMs and the owners want to be at the forefront and don't want the coaches to coach. And I don't know, man, but I just feel like they need a different culture. If you have a head coach, you got to trust him to make the right decisions. You got to believe in him. You can't just be out here like, I want this credit. And because if the coach is successful, you're going to get the credit. And you're going to keep a job too, I mean, who cares at the end of the day? Like, as long as my bills are being paid, as long as I'm still laid in the shade, and, I'm fine with that. I don't need to be in the front and telling everybody how I brought this guy in, I brought that guy in. I mean, it should go without saying. You're the general manager. So allow Doug Peterson to get the guys that he needs to get. And I think that if you're telling this guy he's on a short leash, then I feel like he should be ashamed of himself.
Well, the thing is, here in Philly, Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman do control everything behind the scenes. I mean, if you go back to 2016, Howie Roseman hired Jim Schwartz before Doug Peterson. So what's that tell you? And to me, I think there's friction between Howie Roseman and Jim Schwartz. I mean, that was the rumor back early in the season where they say Jim Schwartz walks around the NovaCare complex like he's the head coach.
Right.
And he pretty much has a lot of say on the defense, who Howie brings in. And Doug has nothing to do with the defense. It's Jim Schwartz's show.
Yeah.
So
shame on him then.
To me, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Like Andy, that wouldn't happen with Andy Reid here because Andy Reid had a lot to say over Howie Roseman. Andy wore a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Pro player personnel and, head coach calling the plays. And, he wore a lot of hats here in Philly. And I know when he got to Kansas City, he lost a lot of that, took a lot of pressure on him to coach more.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that you got to be able to let your head coaches do their job. I just feel like anytime where you have GMs and owners getting too heavily involved in the day-to-day operations, this is a recipe for disaster. Now, you might get away with it, maybe once, maybe even twice. But if you look at some of these successful franchises over the years, there's always this same there's the same type of blueprint, right? You have the coach that gets his guys, that get his players, and then you have that owner that just comes that you barely even see, that you never probably seen before until like a Lombardi is hoisted. And, if you want to be the guy in the forefront, if you want to be the guy that's getting all the credit, 9 times out of 10, you might make the playoffs. You might win some games, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a disgruntled fan base wondering where are the results, where's the beef, if we can say that old Wendy's ad back in the day. Where's the substance? You're going to keep on asking that question. So you got to let these guys be involved. And like I said, Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning coach. Okay, teams are going to flock if the Eagles get rid of this guy. And I heard somebody say the Jets, and I heard somebody say the Texans. I mean, would not be surprised if he ends up going to any of those teams.
Well, I can name 2 owners in the NFC least that pretty much have a stranglehold on their organizations. One, the famous Jerry Jones, and also not Jeff Snyder.
Bill Snyder.
Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder, yeah.
But I think Dan Snyder did the right thing hiring Ron Rivera, who to me I think is a proven one of the better coaches in the NFL.
Right.
So maybe he did get it right there. But Jerry Jones, this is why Dallas hasn't, hoisted a trophy in a quarter of a century, thanks to him being the moron that he is. But
yeah. Well, Doug also took the time to chime in on the show, and he says, let them dump me. They'll only make me rich somewhere else. So
maybe you'll have more to say, Doug, on your coaches and the personnel that are brought in.
It may be, but so Jack CB3 says there's always a chance this is the NFL, and we as Saints fans can afford to lose this one because Green Bay is waiting like Birdman, waiting on his order at McDonald's. Home field advantage says I don't mean the thing this year. I may as not well exist. And yeah, well, COVID kind of adds to that too, so it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, everything changes. Dr. Drew says the Saints is ready, man. Get out of here with that, 100%. Trey says 43.2 passer rating versus Denver Broncos. And I'm trying to think, who he's referencing to as far as the passer rating.
Talking about Taysom Hill's quarterback rating.
On the ball.
No. Someone Jr. says, TJ's shirt, I'm whiter than Connecticut.
Okay.
Jay says that Doug looks frustrated. I see him as a GM head coach down the line, which obviously it could be true. So who knows? Let me take that one back off here. But I wanted to get back again to one of the other questions that was up here. So Mike Alexander, he said definitely can't look past the Eagles, which we talked about much earlier on the show here. The Eagles, man, that there might be energized, and after Jalen move and look forward to Kansas City, we must take care of business. Man, it won't be easy though, and it's true. I mean, you touched on it, TJ, that you can't look, forward past, of course, this game. You got to take a look at this game first before anything else. And there was another one. Ms. Jackson said that is Michael Thomas a problem in the locker room? Wentz can't play O-line and wide receiver, so he is not the only problem. So I guess for you, TJ, she's asking, is Michael Thomas a problem in the locker room?
No, I don't think he's a problem in the locker room. Now, maybe he had that what I like to call the Willie Beeman complex. You know, when Willie Beeman got opportunity and became a star, he forgot about some of the players, and he felt like he was, you know, larger than life and more, I guess, like more of a focal point than they are. I think Michael Thomas, I think he had that moment, you know, where everybody's singing your praises and everybody telling you how good you are. Sometimes you can let that stuff go to your head. He did have an issue with CJ Gardner-Johnson, the safety of the Saints, which seems like everybody has an issue with CJ Gardner-Johnson every week. But they got into it. He missed the game, but I mean, he apologized and haven't seen any issues since. I mean, these two are talking to each other and supporting each other on social media. So I guess if it's on social media, it must be real. But, you know, I just think that Michael Thomas plays with an edge. He's a very competitive guy. He's a very physical guy. He's a very emotional guy. And, you know, sometimes if you can't, channel and have a balance, then sometimes you can let that stuff, you know, get out ahead of you. But I think that he's learned his lesson and he's becoming more of a team player, you know. So I think you learn lessons, you know. So it's luckily that he learned this early in his career to be a we guy instead of a me guy.
Right. Now, Michael Alexander, he says, you're right, man. We must take care of business against the Eagles. The other thing I did, let me switch it back here to, nope. One more, so I can take that away. And TJ, I know you have to run, so your prediction, I guess, for the Eagles. We wanted to keep you on to the end of the show, but we understand you have other obligations as well. But your prediction as far as the Saints and Eagles.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's going to be a very interesting game. But I do feel like the New Orleans Saints are on a mission right now. I think that this game is going to be a very tough game. For the Philadelphia Eagles. I do feel like the Saints got a little bit of a secret weapon in Malcolm Jenkins, who understands the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles, you know, in some of the ways they might be able to attack the Saints. I think he still knows some of the guys on the team. And I just think that the Saints are going to try to run the football in this game. I mean, since Taysom Hill has taken over at quarterback, the Saints have been running the ball effectively well. They getting Teron Armstead's back. He missed a couple games due to COVID, so you have that left tackle. To me, I feel like the Saints got the best left and right tackle in football. And I just think they're going to try to run the football. They're going to try to stay ahead of the chains. They're going to try to control the time of possession. I think the final score of this game is going to be the Saints 31 and Philadelphia 16.
Yeah, I mean, you may not be way off on that one. That might be true. I, as much as I would love to say that Jalen Hurts is actually going to turn things around, I think it's going to take more than obviously just one game, him starting, and half a game from the week before. I would love to see the Eagles turn this one around as much as I believe in my heart that they should. Unfortunately to me, I think they fall a little bit short. I think the Saints take it 23-21.
I think the Eagles show up with all the hype and Jalen Hurts' first start, but they don't have enough to play with the Saints. To me, right now, I think the Saints and Rams are the top two of the NFC to come out. And Green Bay's there, but I think they're like they were last year. You know, they lost to San Fran in the NFC title game, but I think Green Bay is kind of soft and a little bit of fool's gold right now, but I think it's a Saints victory. And I'll probably take heat, but I don't care. Diehard fan one, but a realist too. So,
and as I said earlier, I'm not trying to be a homer. Listen, in the beginning of the season, I wasn't even the sports contributor from the show. And while Mike and Angel were doing the show, I said the Eagles are going to go 4-12 this year, and I said that they were going to lose to DC, and I said that they were going to lose to the Rams the second week. But listen, the numbers. New Orleans can run the ball. And the Eagles have the 25th ranked run defense in the league. So this has all the makings of the Saints winning. But I'm going to buy a little bit into the hype of the fact that New Orleans is playing their third game in a row on the road. They're playing Kansas City next week. And I know that you talked about the fans not looking ahead to Kansas City because you can't look past anybody at this point. Plus the Jalen Hurts era begins tomorrow. Like I said before, 2019 Eagles doesn't mean that the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. Doesn't mean that the Eagles are better than the Saints because we know that the Saints are clearly better than the Eagles. But that's my prediction for tomorrow. 2019 Eagles.
And also, I want to say this too. I want Philadelphia Eagle fans to pay attention to how the Eagles play when Jalen Hurts is under center. I just want that's what I'm mostly interested in. Just watching the Eagles. Like, is it going to be different than when Carson Wentz was under center? Because I think that can say a lot about a team. It may not just be the team, it may be the person that they put at the front of the team. So I'm interested to see how they're going to respond under Jalen Hurts.
Well, history always says the most popular player on the team is the backup quarterback. So
right.
Here we are.
That is true. TJ, don't go anywhere because we want to say a couple thank yous to some folks here. And plus, I want to talk to you a little bit off air, and I know you have to run. So give me a second here. A couple of people that we want to thank, of course. One is Last Out Media with John Crichton, Vince Quinn, John Barcher. We thank those guys because not only are they reaching out to us, we're reaching out to them as well. They've been coaching us for the last 2 weeks as far as to make us better professional podcasters. So we do thank Last Out Media for taking their time to come out and at least helping us along the way. Rob Motti also from 97.5 The Fanatic, the AP associate producer. But Rob Motti is on tonight from 6 to 10 on 97.5 The Fanatic. Also with Rob, because we are at the holiday time of the year, I'm going to bring up this screen here real quick, which also shows TJ, of course. Faith on the Field with Rob Motti and Remy Motti. They will be on tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. on 97.5 The Fanatic. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning, they're on the ESPN Tallahassee radio. So listen to them as well. Of course, I want to bring back real quick TJ Jones, the host. And we thank you again for the time you have taken today. For the Who Dat Nation decided to be with us as well because tell you what, the comments came in fast and furious and they were pretty funny. So we thank everybody. Kilo Slice. And he says, who that TJ? And so, listen, thank you to everyone who put in the comments. We do appreciate it. TJ, we thank you so much for coming on. And everyone else, we will see you as soon as I bring and follow this up here. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Tomorrow, the show starts at 3 o'clock, which we will have on formerly from CSN and Phillies broadcaster Greg Murphy. He will be joining us, and John Barcher also from Last Out Media. And both of those guys, we haven't heard from them since they've been off air. So if you guys, and even if Who Dat Nation wants to join us tomorrow too, if you guys have, watched the game, you want to tune in. But TJ, thank you so much. We do appreciate you coming on. And let me take off that one comment here. So to everyone else, thank you. We will see you all tomorrow. And with that, TJ, thanks one more time. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you all tomorrow, folks.